Hello everyone, this is Alex, also known as Solinist Raccoon, and welcome to part 4 of my Recording Basics series. So, over the last 3 videos, I showed you how I go about using OBS to record a bit of game footage. We're now done with OBS, and it's time to move on to the video editing process. Editing is essential for polishing up your content. Said something wrong during a video? Just say it again while recording and clip out the flub in editing. Want to toss in some images or text? Add it in editing. Want to throw some background music on? Add it in editing. Editing is so important that I can't imagine anyone being successful on YouTube without doing it. Now, I promised you back in part 1 that we could do everything without spending a dime on software. And I mean it, you won't have to spend any money to get good quality video editing software. The downside? It's going to be slow. I'm very sorry to say, but for video editors, there just aren't any great free options on the market. I've tried them all. I've tried Shotcut, I've tried HitFilm, I've tried Lightworks and DaVinci and VSDC, and you name it. Each and every one of them has some sort of flaw which makes them not ideal for me. There is one bit of software which does stand out, however. Now, a lot of you might be thinking that I'm going to recommend Windows Movie Maker for this. No! While Movie Maker is a fine piece of software, I find it way too slow and clunky to use. It's powerful enough, but the interface is dated, and the preload time on video import is awful. I've got another editor in mind. Videopad is my free editor of choice. I own the paid version, but the free version can be found, and I don't mean the 30-day trial. I like Videopad because it has a similar interface to some of the more popular big-name editors like Premiere or Vegas. I like it because it has nearly all of the options and tools that the big boys have. But the main reason I like Videopad as a free option is that it alone, of all the free video editors I've tried, and I've tried a lot, supports FLV format and offers lossless export. If you had to record your video as FLV within OBS in order to conserve system resources, this is the only free editor I've tried that you can actually bring them into and edit them like normal. Hell, a few of the paid ones don't even support that. And for anyone who came upon this video by looking for a fix or workaround for the Lame.exe crash bug in Videopad, yes, I actually do have a workaround for it, and it will be present in this video, I assure you. The main differences between the free and paid versions of Videopad are 1. You cannot put as many soundtracks in, and 2. You can only export as AVI or WMV. There are probably more differences, but for the simple editing we're trying to do, they're not terribly important. If you want to try the full version, they do have a 30-day trial, no strings attached. It's a decent way to try before you buy. If you have another video editing program you find that you use and enjoy, awesome, use it. Most of what I'm doing today is going to be showing some basic editing tasks, including clipping, transitions, and text. Most of the editors out there have some form of this. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave it up to you to research and look up the methods those others use, because I can't cover all editors, and as I've been saying throughout the series, this is an art and you will have to learn it largely on your own. I'm just tossing out pointers. Normally, I don't go about the business of showing people where to download and install things, but since NCH Software slightly hides it, I'll show you just this once. Do a Google search for Videopad, all one word, and go to the first option, Video Editing Software Download Free Video Editor. Right here. This is where the free version is, this right here. This will take you to the 30-day trial, this will take you to the free version. Now, just so you all know, sometimes when you install Videopad, you get the light version. Sometimes you get the dark version. There is no way to know beforehand which you will get. There is no way to switch within the program that I know of, and there is no difference in how well either of the two perform. You can uninstall and reinstall until you get the color scheme that you like. I like light, so that's what I have. Also, I am using the full paid version right now. The interface is identical, but I'll show you the settings that I have worked out for the best results on export for the free version. The very first thing you should do when beginning any video editing project is to save your project. Just click Save and choose a folder to save it in. I like to have a special folder within my recording folder for it, but you do you. Name the project and save it. Boom. Done. Name the project and save it, even if you haven't done anything yet. You might need to go back and re-export, or catch something you forgot to edit out, and if you have to start again from scratch, that'll suck. Save first, save repeatedly, save often. Now, you can add files by clicking the Add Files button on the top, or by simply dragging your videos and images and audio onto the screen. Since it doesn't make any difference and I'm lazy, I'll just drag them in from my second monitor. It'll take a moment to process, but it won't be long. Once you have your files imported into the project, then you'll want to lay them out down below. Just drag and drop. I may as well use my episode 3 as the subject file here, so you guys get to see me editing that down. I use an outro on all of my finished products, and you can make one in your own in the editor too, but I'm not going to do a video on that. Pop it in on the end of the first video if you've got it. You may have noticed on my published videos that there is a crossfade from the end of the video to the outro. I may as well show you how to do that now as long as we're here. I'm going to click near the end of the video and zoom in on it. You can use either your mouse's scroll wheel, if you have one, or the little magnifying glass sliders down here. You want to get in just a little bit close and personal. Now here we don't have to be all that terribly close. To add in a transition, simply click the little cross logo between the clips. On this window you have all your options for the different types of transitions. On the bottom right, here is where you set the duration. Set it for however long that you want. I like 1 second, and I'm going to choose a crossfade. Now, if this is your first time using the program, you may get this window. I suggest choose no freeze frames. If you say yes, move the clip, it's gonna come out looking weird. Choose no freeze frames, and check the box to always use this choice and do not ask again. I can't think of a situation where moving the clip will actually look good. Just don't do it, it's nasty. As you can see, now there's a little dark spot over that area of the transition. That means that it is in place. If you want to take the transition away, you can either click on the cross again and choose no transition, or simply do Ctrl-Z or undo to remove it. I like it in there, so I'm going to put it back. And just so we can make sure that it looks okay, let's go ahead and give it a play. There, that looks nice to you? I like it. Now, don't worry. No matter how jaggedy or nasty the preview looks while you're editing it, I promise it will come out just fine on export. Another thing not to worry about is your original recorded video. This is a non-linear video editing program, which means that any changes or adjustments you make here do not affect the existing files. Your original video and all your audio and art is safe. I'm going to cover just a few basic video editing functions. If you want to know how to do more advanced stuff, there's forums and Google out there to help you out. I'm not claiming to be a master video editor here, just trying to guide you guys to some good tools and teach you some basics on using them. I already showed you transitions, and I'll probably show you a little bit more on that as we go, but there's just 2 more things I want to show you. First, cutting out clips. You're going to have a flub or two. You're going to have some boring downtime that you'd rather not show. You're going to have things that you do not want in the final video. Let's start out at the beginning by either taking the horizontal scroll bar all the way to the left or just hitting the home button on your keyboard while you're clicked into the editing window. Here's a perfect example. There's a spot of silence right here at this point in the clip, and I think it lasts a little bit long. So we're just going to go ahead and edit that out. I'm going to start just a little bit from the end of the most recent thing. It's a good use of your audio waveform here to see exactly where you're at, so you can spot those pauses. Click the split button here, drag it over to just before there, click the split button again, and now we have a nice little sectioned out chunk that we can just click and delete. Now, go ahead and save. It's a good idea not to go too close to the end of one clip and too close to the beginning of another. You don't want that jarring of a transition. But I leave it up to you. It is an art. You do you. Again, please do not be lazy about it. Put in the time and effort required to do it right. Actually play the entire video, listening as you go, for what you want to cut out or when you want to add something in. Play it several times over from what you just added or cut out to make sure it all lines up. Undo things you think you did wrong with Ctrl-Z, or again, the undo button up top there. And then, when you think you're done editing, play the whole thing from start to finish, listening and watching again. I think most creators will agree with me that for every minute of video you publish, there's at least 10 minutes of production time involved. You can click back and forth and start playing from any point in the video, so don't worry, you don't have to watch the whole thing over again every time you make a change, unless you want to. Again, you do you. You can use the flow of your audio track, as I've said, to gauge where these silences and other such things come in. Okay, so you get the gist of clipping. Now let's add in some text. When you get to a point in the video where you think some text on screen will be appropriate, pause there. Here's a good spot. This is where I talked about the banner sizes. Now, I like my text to pop in just as I start talking about something, so I'm going to play up to where I mention 960 by 720. I'm going to zoom on in, and I'm going to make sure I'm starting just as I begin to say it. Just like that. Let's add the text now. Click Add Text at the top, Simple Text Overlay, and you get this nice little editor. It's also going to pop in a kind of clip of text right there on video track 2 for you to work with. You can play around with the other title options at your leisure. If you're adding a picture into the project, it will display the same way on a separate video track. You'll notice the clip preview shows title text. To change it, click this little box right here. I like to put yellowish text up, and that doesn't show up great on a white background, so I've got the editor background set to light gray, which you can change right here. Looks like we're going to have to select our colors, so start off by just choosing your color on the palette here. I think that's a good light gray. I'm going to click on one of these boxes down here and click Set to Swatch. That means that it is going to be permanently available on these little boxes down here for me to choose from. As long as I'm here, I might as well just go ahead and choose my yellow text. I like a nice bright yellow there. I think that's good. Click that and set to swatch. And if you don't like that particular color, if it doesn't look as good on the video if you thought it would, then you can always come back here and drag around until you get what you want. You can also use the dipping tool, a little color eyedropper there, to pick a particular color anywhere on the screen if you happen to have one. I'm going to go ahead and double click the gray and hit OK, and that makes our background gray. Now I'm going to go ahead and change the text color. You have to highlight everything in order to do that, so I'm going to click on that, double click that, and boom, the title text is now yellow. You can adjust other things like the alignment or the font or the size, however you see fit. Alright, so I've got 960 by 720 set there. I'm going to change it to impact font, and I'm going to bring it up to size 12. As you can see, on our preview and on our clip preview, it is adjusting. If you have a lighter background, or if you just want to, clicking the shadow box will add just a tiny little bit of a shadow around the text, and that'll show up a little bit better. Now, as long as we're highlighting what's going on here, meaning our red line is over the text box and we've got the clip selected, then we can actually move it around. For this, you want to make sure that the view is set to clip plus background, so that way not only can you see what's going on the left, but you can see what's going on the right as well. We're going to drag it around just a little bit, and you can see it moving on the right there, and there you go. Boom. That is a nicely edited piece of text, if I do say so myself. So let's watch. Now, I also like to end my text clips at about when I'm done talking, so I'm going to kind of just drag back just a little bit until right about where I've ended saying 960 by 720, and just grab the edge of the clip and drag the bracket over. Now, as long as we're here, we might as well talk about doing fade-ins on text and pictures. To do a fade-in, you click this little slanty line here, and the standard fade-in is 1 second. You have to do it as 1.0, you can't just put 1. However, when you do that, you say, wow, it's actually taking up nearly half of the clip. So 1 second's a bit long. Let's change it to half a second, 0.5. That looks nice, I like that. In order to do the fade out, we are going to have to set a video transition. Just click that. First, change it to 0.5 down here, and I'm going to choose fade. So now, let's see what effect this has. Once you've watched over the duration of clip and made sure it is where you want it to be, that it lines up and fades in and out properly, then it's time to move on. You're remembering to save, right? Once you've gone through the whole video, editing out what you don't want, adding in stuff you do want, and doing all the transitions, now is the time to do any last minute things. I did all that other stuff off screen, and this is probably what a completed project is going to look like. Now I'm going to add a bit of background music to this video. I've got the chemical plant zone music from Sonic the Hedgehog already imported. Don't worry, you can import anything you like whenever you like, as you need it. Drag it and put it down here. As this is a crazy long ass clip, we're probably going to have to drag it until it aligns with the beginning of the video. Normally it snaps into place, but it doesn't hurt to just zoom in all the way, or as far as you need to, in order to get it. Now, if you've got an intro on there, you probably want the beginning of the background music to begin where your intro ends. I don't have it in this case, but what I would like to do is I'd like to add in a fade in. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to choose fade in. The standard length being 1 second seems just fine to me. And as you can see, if you scroll in here, got a little bit of a slant line over there. It's kind of hidden behind that stuff, but it's there. Now we need to tell this sucker where to end. So I'm just going to go ahead and scroll all the way to the end of where it is. I'm going to click on roughly the end of the video and zoom a zoom zoom. It's very important to have frame perfection on this sort of a thing. So I've got this zoomed in to the absolute max that it will go to, and I've got the red line exactly at the center point between the outro and the end of the video. Here it will pay off to do a different kind of split. We'll click the split button, go to audio tracks, and since this is audio track 2, that's what we're going to go ahead and split. That cuts it off there. Take that, delete it, and let's zoom back out again. Alright, that seems to line up perfectly. We're just going to add a fade out, same as before, and you see that tiny, tiny, tiny little slant at the end of the video, or rather at the end of the background music there. Now, as I've already done, I suggest clicking the little plus sign at the end of the audio track, and we need to adjust for volume. So what we're going to do is we're going to go all the way to the home, and we're going to begin playing, and we're going to adjust our volume slider down until it sounds right. 15% seems to work just fine for me, so that's what we're going to go with. Don't go too low. Remember that when you export the video, it may sound different after encoding. Just go low enough. Of course, you can always listen to the end result when you're done exporting and decide to re-export if you need to make changes. The only thing it'll cost you is time. I think we've done enough editing. It's time to export the video. Go to Export Video and click Video File. Here, you get to name the finished product and say where it exports to. I have a special folder for my completed vids. If you saved your project and named it already, that name will be what's in the box automatically. Now's when it gets tricky again. If you're using the free version of Videopad, you can't export an MP4. I've never trusted WMV, so we're going to choose AVI. Now we get into the advanced encoder options. Sound compressor as MP3 is fine, so leave that be. Set your sound format to the very highest, in this case 48,000 with 320 kilobits per second, stereo why not, and we're going to hit compression settings. Here, I like to adjust it all the way up to high quality larger file size. You could be more exact with these numbers down here, but I don't think so. Just high quality larger file size. We're not trying to get that advanced. Hit OK. Attention all viewers. I mentioned a bug earlier. This is where I talk about it. In Videopad, when exporting as AVI, there can often be a crash when you get to 99.5% or so. The crash goes something like Lame.exe has stopped working. Lame, for those who don't know, is the compressor used to export to MP3 format. The bug seems to occur when you are trying to export a video file as AVI with MP3 formatted audio. I have tested it, and the workaround I've come up with is to not have any MP3 tracks within your video editing project. This is why I said, if you're using the free version, or even if you're on the full version and want to export to AVI, do not bring any MP3 audio tracks in. Convert them to WAV format using Audacity or some other audio program. I have not yet experienced the bug while doing this. Lossless export is another feature I love on Videopad. But it's not available on the free version because that means you have to export to FLV or MP4 depending on the format of your initial recorded video. Since we're using free and thusly are limited to AVI or WMV on the export, then we're not going to be able to use lossless. OBS does not have an option to record to AVI, so don't think you're getting around it by trying that. unfortunately, in the end product, unless we use lossless export, we are going to have a drop in quality. Also, as this is a 32-bit program and not 64-bit, then the export is going to take a while longer if you have to re-encode, because 32-bit programs cannot use multi-core processing. The quality loss is somewhat noticeable, but for the price, I personally wouldn't consider it a deal breaker. A quick word on lossless export. Lossless export works best if you are just editing a complete long stream of the exact same encoding. If, like in my Skyrim episode 7, which has not yet been published as of the recording of this video, there is a necessity to put in a separate clip, one that you've exported from outside, one that is not one you've recorded in the exact same format. When you export in lossless, you're going to start experiencing audio desync after the clip that you have patched in. So do not use lossless export if you are adding in any sort of external video that is not recorded in the exact same format, in the exact same bitrate, and all that good stuff. Remember, the longer the video overall, the longer the export will be. I would expect anywhere from 2 to 5 times the length of the video, depending upon how detailed the game in question is. This is the pay-to-play barrier, unfortunately. No getting around it. If you're going to be YouTubing seriously, you're going to have to, at some point, invest in some products. Now, if you recorded your video in 720p, you can upscale it to 1080p on the export, but this won't result in any quality gain, and is going to add to your export time, so maybe just don't. If you record it in 1080, well, have at it. Finally, we'll just make sure our frame rate is set to 60 frames per second if that's what you recorded in. I personally like a constant frame rate, but if you're on a potato, you might want to leave that box unchecked, or else you might experience some audio desync if your video recorded badly. It's unlikely, as that problem would have occurred back in the recording phase, but don't risk your final product on it. Or do. You can always re-export without the box checked if you have the time and disk space. So, with all of these settings, with all of these edits, we're finally ready to begin export. Click Create, and go make a sandwich. I should point out that video exporting is a pretty CPU-intensive process. I wouldn't go trying to play any games on the computer while it's exporting. It's unlikely that doing other stuff on the system will result in any problems with the final exported video, but if your computer is having to handle too much at once, then everything's going to slow down. You can change the process priority for Videopad in the task manager to above normal if you like, but I'd suggest you just go ahead and watch a video or read a nice book or do something else while waiting. Simple stuff that doesn't eat up CPU power. Take a break. You've earned it. And that concludes this episode on Recording Basics. On the next and actual final video in the Basics series, I'll show you how to upload to YouTube with scheduling and all that good stuff. Please remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Once again, I am Alex, also known as Solinist Raccoon, and this has been my Recording Basics. Goodbye.